Your rope, your gear, the only thing standing between you and a fatal plunge down hundreds of feet of vertical rock. And sometimes they fail when you need them most. Welcome to the terrifying world of rope snaps and gear failures caught on camera, where even the most experienced climbers learn that gravity is unforgiving and equipment failure can happen to anyone. What makes these incidents so chilling isn't just the falls themselves. It's the fact that climbers did everything right, checked their gear, followed safety protocols, and still found themselves hurtling toward the ground when the unthinkable happened. Today, we're diving into real incidents where ropes snapped, carabiners broke, and harnesses failed, turning routine climbs into life-or-death situations in the blink of an eye. The murder wall claims its victim. Let's start with one of the most notorious faces on Earth, the Eiger's North Face in Switzerland, infamously known as the murder wall. Since 1935, this nearly 6,000-foot vertical giant of rock and ice has claimed over 64 lives, and on March 22, 1966, it added another name to that grim list, John Harland. John was no amateur. The 30-year-old American alpinist and U.S. Air Force pilot had already made history as the first American to ascend the Heckmare route on the Eiger's North Face. But John wasn't satisfied with repeating what had been done before. He wanted to carve a new, more direct route up the murder wall. After more than a month of brutal struggle alongside climbers Leighton Core, Dougal Haston, and Chris Bonington, John was ascending alone to rejoin his group about 2,000 feet from the summit. Then it happened. A fixed rope that had been anchored to the rock face suddenly broke while John was on it. He fell 4,000 feet to the base of the Eiger. Think about that for a moment. 4,000 feet. The fall would have taken over 20 seconds, an eternity of knowing exactly what was about to happen. John didn't survive, but 3 days later, his fellow climbers reached the summit and named the route the John Harland Route in his honor. But here's the question that haunts every climber. If a fixed rope on one of the most famous climbs in the world can fail, what does that say about the gear we trust with our lives? When a free soloist's rope fails. Now, here's where things get truly ironic. Dan Osman was legendary for climbing without ropes, fearlessly free soloing routes that would make most climbers' palms sweat just watching. He gained massive fame with his 4-minute, 25-second speed solo of Bear's Reach, a climb that featured an iconic double dyno leap over a gap between holds that became one of the most recognized moves in climbing history. But Dan also pioneered something called rope jumping, essentially controlled free-fall jumps from cliffs caught by safety ropes. His record was over 1,000 feet. On November 23, 1998, Dan returned to the Leaning Tower in Yosemite National Park, a 2,500-foot rock formation, to dismantle his rope jump setup. But before taking it down, he decided to make one more jump. Mid-fall, the main rope snapped, and Dan plummeted to his death. The irony was devastating. A climber who had defeated death countless times without any rope died because a rope failed him. The investigation by Black Diamond Equipment's quality assurance manager revealed the chilling cause. Dan's jump rope was made of several ropes tied together, and a change in the jump angle caused the main rope to cross and catch on itself at a knot during his fall. The friction caused the rope to cut itself by melting. The ropes had been exposed to rain and snow for over a month, leading many to believe weather damage caused the failure. But the investigation found no evidence that weather, UV exposure, or previous falls contributed to the rope failure. It was purely the rope crossing itself, a freak accident that cost one of climbing's most fearless pioneers his life. The man who seemed immune to gravity's pull was ultimately claimed by it because of a rope configuration gone wrong. Caught on camera, the sharp edge slice. Some gear failures happen in front of witnesses, captured forever on camera as a warning to others. Italian climber Mel Sinati was tackling the Elder Statesman route in Kimber, England, a climb he'd done before. The route was notorious for having a particularly scary arête, which is a sharp edge of rock. These edges are beautiful to look at, but deadly to climbing ropes. As Mel moved through the crux of the climb, the hardest part, he lost his grip and began falling. Initially, this wasn't cause for panic. He had a rope. He'd placed protection. He should have been fine. But as the rope ran along that sharp arête during his fall, it did something terrifying. It literally sliced through his rope. The video captured it all. Mel fell 10 meters, about 33 feet, to the ground. By some miracle, he only walked away with a broken wrist and heel. 10 meters might not sound like much compared to some falls on this list, but it's well within the range where falls frequently prove fatal. Mel's survival was luck, pure and simple, but his accident highlighted a critical vulnerability in the climbing protection system. Sharp rock edges can cut through modern climbing ropes like a knife through butter when loaded with the force of a falling climber. Sharp edges cutting ropes is actually more common than most climbers realize. In fact, between 2008 and 2012, there were at least 3 documented accidents where ropes were severed by worn, fixed quick draws on sharp edges. One occurred at a climbing gym in Prague, another at Red River Gorge in the US, and a fatal accident at the Maglech Crag in Switzerland. The issue isn't just natural rock. Worn carabiners on fixed quick draws develop sharp edges over time that can damage rope sheaths and even sever ropes completely during falls. Joshua Tree's deadly secret. Fast forward to April 18, 2011, at Joshua Tree National Park near Los Angeles. David Pinnegar, a 33-year-old rock climber from California, was having what should have been a routine climbing day. David was described as an excellent rock climber with years of experience, always seeking adventure wherever he went. He and his friend were climbing a route called a Walk on the Wild Side, located along a spiny ridge with a 600-foot vertical face. David's partner had just rappelled to the ground safely. David was still making his way down when his rope suddenly snapped. He fell 150 feet to the ground, dying on impact. It was the first climbing death in the park since 2009. The investigation into what caused David's rope to fail on a standard rappel sent shockwaves through the climbing community. Here was an experienced climber on a routine descent, and his lifeline simply gave out. The incident underscored a harsh reality. Rope failure can strike even on the descent, when climbers are tired and perhaps less vigilant about gear condition. The legend brought down by a worn loop. If David Pinnegar's accident was shocking, what happened to Todd Skinner was absolutely devastating to the climbing world. Todd wasn't just any climber. He was a 47-year-old world-renowned legend. In 1988, Todd and his partner Paul Piana achieved what the climbing community thought impossible. They free-climbed the Salathi Wall on El Capitan in Yosemite. It was one of the first ever big wall climbs at 5.13B grade and led to the birth of modern free climbing in Yosemite. Todd had logged over 300 first descents across 26 countries and was known throughout the community for his meticulous safety measures. In October 2006, Todd had spent 2 weeks with his climbing partner Jim Hewitt in Yosemite Valley, practicing for the free ascent of a route on the Leaning Tower. Yes, the same formation where Dan Osman died. On October 23rd, Todd stood on the leaning tower, exhausted from climbing all day. He and Jim had just discussed their plans for the next day before Todd began rappelling down from a ledge midway up the 2,000-foot face. Then the unthinkable happened. His nylon belay loop, a crucial part of his harness that connects the leg loops to the waist belt, broke. Todd plummeted over 500 feet to his death. What made this even more tragic was that Jim Hewitt, Todd's friend, had previously observed that the harness appeared worn. In an NPR interview, Paul Piana, Todd's longtime climbing partner, who had shared that historic El Capitan ascent with him, said it plainly. It was equipment failure, but I have to say it was also Todd's failure in continuing to use it. Here was a man known for safety consciousness, a climber who had survived hundreds of first ascents in extreme conditions around the world, brought down by a worn piece of webbing he should have replaced. Todd's death sent a clear message. Complacency kills, even among the best. The unwitnessed fall down under. Not all gear failures have the mercy of quick deaths. In June 2011, 34-year-old rock climber Clint Westbrook headed out for a climbing trip at Mugara Peaks National Park in Australia. Clint lived life to the fullest, and climbing was one of his favorite activities. He told friends he'd be back by the weekend after his Thursday departure. When Clint didn't return, his family became concerned, but friends assured them this was typical behavior. Clint often extended his trips. It wasn't until the following Tuesday, when he still hadn't shown up, that a full-scale search was launched. Clint's van was found in a parking lot, and soon after, searchers discovered his body at the bottom of the northwest cliff of Mount Greville. The investigation revealed that while Clint was likely attempting to install anchor points for his rope, while rappelling down the cliff face, his rope broke, sending him falling 30 meters, about 98 feet, to the base of the cliff. He died doing what he loved. But the tragedy is that he lay there for days before anyone found him. His family and friends mourned not just the loss, but the agonizing days of uncertainty before they knew his fate. The hidden killers, understanding gear failure. So what's actually causing these ropes to snap and gear to fail? The answer isn't simple, but understanding it could save your life. Research into climbing accidents over 30 years reveals some sobering statistics. In traditional climbing, nearly half of all accidents involved gear failure. That's not a typo, half. Rope failures specifically come from several sources. Sharp edges, as we saw with Mel Sinati, can slice through ropes when loaded during a fall, but there's also the issue of worn carabiners. When aluminum carabiners are left as fixed gear on routes, particularly on the first bolt where climbers lower off repeatedly, they develop sharp grooves from the rope running over them thousands of times. Sand-laden ropes act like an abrasive cutting tool, wearing down lightweight aluminum in a relatively short period. Between 2010 and 2012 alone, 3 climbers had their ropes severed by worn fixed quick draws, resulting in ground falls and severe injuries. Then there's the phenomenon called nose hooking. This happens when the nose of a carabiner, the part where the gut rests when closed, gets caught on a bolt hanger. This prevents the carabiner from rotating and puts it in an extremely weak orientation. Black Diamond Equipment tested this scenario and found that nose-hooked carabiners can break at less than 2 kilonewtons. That's less than 10% of their rated strength. To put that in perspective, even the smallest climbing falls generate forces well above 2 kilopascals. A nose-hooked carabiner can fail from a load that feels like nothing more than a bounce test. Harness failures like Todd Skinner's often come from prolonged UV exposure and wear that degrades nylon webbing. The belay loop on a harness takes tremendous force during falls and rappels, and when it's compromised, there's no backup. If it fails, you fall. And let's not forget rope contamination. In one bizarre accident at a climbing gym, a climber fell and his rope broke during what should have been a low-load fall. Investigation revealed traces of sulfuric acid on the section of rope where failure occurred, local contamination that created a weak point that failed under load. The lesson: where you store your rope and what it comes in contact with matters. Learning from tragedy, these stories aren't meant to scare you away from climbing. They're meant to make you smarter about it. Every one of these accidents teaches something critical. Check your fixed gear before trusting it. Retire your worn harnesses and ropes before they retire you. Understand that sharp edges and worn carabiners are rope killers. Place adequate protection. In trad climbing, gear failure is involved in nearly half of all accidents. Statistics show that climbing fatalities occur at a rate of 0.13 per 1,000 climbing hours. That might sound low until you consider how many hours climbers log. The Czech Mountaineering Association reports an average of 3.43 fatal injuries per year among 18,000 members. These aren't just numbers. They're John Harlan's, Dan Osmond's, Todd Skinner's, and countless others who thought it wouldn't happen to them. The final word. Rock climbing pushes us to our limits, testing strength, skill, and courage against the raw face of nature. But nature doesn't care about your experience level, your confidence, or how many first ascents you've logged. When gear fails, gravity wins. The climbers we've discussed today, from John Harland on the murder wall to Todd Skinner on the Leaning Tower, were among the best. Their deaths weren't caused by recklessness or inexperience. They were caused by equipment failure, worn gear, and the unpredictable variables that exist whenever humans venture into vertical terrain. Always prioritize safety. Regularly inspect your gear with a critical eye. Never underestimate the risks. Replace worn equipment before it fails. Double-check fixed gear before trusting your life to it. And remember, the rope that catches you today might be the one that breaks tomorrow if you don't respect its limits. These climbers died doing what they loved, and in their tragedies, they've left us lessons written in the harshest terms possible. Honor their memory by learning from their experiences, by being more vigilant, more cautious, and more respectful of the unforgiving nature of climbing. Because in the high-stakes world, where ropes are the lifeline between adventure and disaster, there are no second chances when equipment fails and gravity takes over. Stay safe out there, and we'll see you on the next one.